Morning, everyone. It's Dr. Eric, the fitness physician. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I've been asked a lot of questions about fats recently, and I just wanted to answer a couple of those questions, especially when it comes to fatty acids and things of this nature, it's metabolism. So today, just a real quick, I'm going to talk about essential fatty acids. So a lot of times, I think a lot of us have known that fats are very healthy for our body for many, many years. I mean, I grew up with this in the in the 80s and 90s that fats are bad, and you got to cut fat out of the diet. Now, there's a very few select people who need to do that based on genetics, but most people you need a lot of healthy fats. Fats are essential for many, many functions in our body, whether it's cell membranes, hormone production, etc. So, in terms of that too, or more specifically, the essential fatty acids are those fatty acids that we just cannot make. For example, the omega-3s and the omega-6s are called essential fatty acids for a reason. They're essential. We can't make them, so we have to ingest them. So, we don't want to cut out the fats too much from our diet. Some people have to play around with how much fat, but typically don't want to get too much below 20% of your diet should be coming from fats, because it's healthy for many, many reasons. I think more people are aware of that now. So again, the question kind of goes back to, what are they? Why do I need them? So, of course, we break down basically, maybe a little hard to read, but fats are basically saturated or unsaturated. And then there's further breakdown of monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Saturated fats are basically those that are solid at room temperature, right? I think most people know this. It's, mostly your meats, like butter, things of this nature. Monounsaturated and polyunsaturated are versions of unsaturated. Think of like your oils, mostly plant dried fish, things of this nature, and I'll get into that a little further. But typically, the unsaturated ones are typically plant sourced or liquids like an oil. So basically, and then when you get into monounsaturated and polyunsaturated, those are a whole nother breakdown as well. Again, the polyunsaturated, think of like your vegetable oils. Monounsaturated is a very special kind. Most people think of like olive oil, right? That's probably the classic example. Now, meats have unsaturated and saturated. A lot of plant proteins and plant foods have both as well. Many foods actually have multiple breakdowns. Like, for example, people think of salmon as a great source of omega-3, but also has some saturated and some unsaturated. Coconut is plant, but actually has a lot of saturated fat. So there's ratios. It's not all one or the other. So, but that's an important distinction, because we definitely want to focus on plenty of monounsaturated, and saturated fats are good in moderation. Polyunsaturated, probably the least of the essential. We can, again, all things in moderation, but definitely most people don't get enough of the monounsaturated because of the health benefits of things like olive oil. Same with saturated fats, as long as it comes from good organic sources, organic meats, butter, coconut oil, very, very, very healthy for you. Again, as long as you're not eating, pounds of it, that's fine. So, because it is still calorically dense. So, in terms of further, the sources, we're going to talk about this as well. But, the big thing that I want to hit is, I think a lot of people talk about the ratios, right? And back in, hundreds and thousands of millions of years ago, our ratios of omega-3s and omega-6s were pretty even or pretty close. Now, the omega-6s and the omega-3 ratio has gone up from 6 to 1. In other words, we're eating a lot more omega-6s than omega-3s. And then once again, it's all about balance, right? So things are a little out of balance. So unfortunately, we've seen that. A lot of these can be pro-inflammatory and can cause some problems with cell membranes and other things as well. Hence, there's been a lot of rise in autoimmune diseases and infections and heart conditions, obesity, metabolic syndrome. I'm not saying it's just all from this, but that's definitely a contributing factor, especially within the industrial seed oil. Is massively detrimental. Has been a huge problem. When back in the 80s and 90s, like everybody said fat was bad, so we switched to these vegetable oils. Vegetable oils are great. Finding out it's not really the case. They're actually quite harmful to the body. So the ratio is out of whack. So you want to get that ratio closer to 1-to-1 of omega-6 to omega-3. So omega-6 and omega-3, you need them both, of course. You don't, again, all things in moderation, but the parent molecules are linoleic acid for omega-6 and alpha-linolenic acid for omega-3. For the next video, I'm going to actually do a little keynote presentation. I'll have some slides and some diagrams talking a little bit about this a little bit more. I don't want to draw them all out. It could be a little busy. Plus, I know a lot of you guys can't read my handwriting. So again, focus on the basic thing is the linoleic and the alpha-linoleic. So that's the main source. So omega-3s, of course, ALA, alpha-linoleic, gets converted into the well-known DHA and EPA. Those are the anti-inflammatory components, which again, I'll talk about further in another video. They both have unique functions and unique rules. They both do slightly different things, which I'll show you on a little diagram, but they're both very important. Omega-6s, of course, come from the linoleic acid again. Okay, so again, omega-3s, again, most people think of fatty fish, things of this nature, but also, things like nuts and pumpkin seeds and people talk about things like flaxseed and flax oil, which we don't convert as well, but the fatty fishes are certainly the best choice. Of course, omega-6 is very ubiquitous, and nuts and seeds and plant proteins and things of this nature. So we're going to talk next time about very unique enzymes, the delta-5 desaturase and the delta-6 desaturase, and as well as the ubiquitous mitochondrial creatine kinase. So we're going to talk about some cool stuff next time. So stay tuned for that. I just wanted to pique your interest. So very important, though, in terms of the ratios and how these play. And how these affect, if you want to get maximal benefit of your omegas and figure out how to make them work for your body to reduce inflammation and promote overall health, you want to stay tuned for that one. So again, why are these important? What are some of the roles of these essential fatty acids we're talking about here? Huge list, of course, right? So the biggest ones are important in cell membranes. Again, most of our bodies and our cells are made out of fats, especially in the brain, the nervous system. Cell membranes, again, think of like a little sphere. That outer wall. These are massively important. You want the right ratio of fatty acids. It's what we call that lipid bilayer. Keeps all the bad stuff out and the good stuff inside the cell, right? Things can't there's little pores and little channels and membranes and transporters that move things like potassium and sodium and all your nutrients in and out of the cell. You want a firm layer, again, kind of like a shell, like your skin. You want it protective, right? You want to keep the bad stuff out. So, and again, these also have to be very fluid. These cell membranes have to be able to move to adjust to different conditions, and to kind of go with the flow, so to speak. But the bottom line is you want it to be just like everything, like your arteries, you want them to be elastic. You want your muscles, you want to have some elastic, you want to be stiff, then they're not going to work properly. So it's very important for fluidity of cell membranes to allow proper transport of nutrients, to allow proper functions of these channels, and appropriate and basically normal cellular function and mitochondrial function. Again, they're a huge role in the central nervous system and the nerves, and to help these fatty acids form the myelin sheath. The nerves, like these long little tubes, they're protected, again, by this outer shell. Think of like your copper tubing over top of it. When you have a wire, you strip a wire that you're plugged into the wall. When you strip it down, you see the wires, but over top, of course, there's that plastic, that protective plastic layer around it. Well, that's myelin in the nerves, and we need that. We don't have a proper essential fatty acid. The ratios are out of whack because of too many seed oils, too much inflammation, too many bad foods. Those get disrupted. Things start to break down. The cells can't communicate. Wow, I'm getting brain fog. I can't think. People are getting autoimmune conditions, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all these things. It's because of our central nervous system. Things are getting out of whack. So massively important. Essential fatty acids play a huge role in hormone production. All the hormones, of course, come from cholesterol. That's why we learned a long time ago about we need cholesterol. And it's basically what we make as well as what we eat. Cholesterol is the parent, and your body converts that into all of your hormones. And I'll go through that in a future PowerPoint presentation as well. But essential fatty acids play a role in all of your in thyroid support, adrenal support, and your gonadal hormones as well, your sex hormones. All the hormones, and again, some of the other things we can talk about are things involved with vascular and blood pressure. A lot of studies even have shown, with essential fatty acids and omega-3s, been a reduced risk of atherosclerosis, reduced risk of heart attack, better survival from heart attacks and strokes, decreased risk of heart attacks and strokes, lower blood pressure, many more. I'll go over a couple studies next time as well. But essential fatty acids is also important for proper liver function. And of course, the big one everybody talks about is reduction of inflammation. It's very anti-inflammatory, which of course we all know is the main source of our problems nowadays with chronic disease, autoimmune, disease like metabolic syndrome, diabetes. Pretty much any condition, any disease out there is related to inflammation or inflammation and oxidation. So it can be massively helpful for lowering inflammation. Of course, essential fatty acids are important for proper immune function, especially big lately. We would talk about immune function and fighting off these nasty viruses and everything else that comes our way. Also important for proper growth of skin and hair. We talked about cholesterol and, of course, reduction of coronary disease and inflammation. So next time I'll talk about the desaturation enzymes as well as mitochondrial creatine kinase, which are pretty cool things I learned about myself. So some of this may be old hat, but I just want to kind of quick refresher, basic breakdown of all these essential fatty acids and why they're essential. So stay tuned for the next one. I'm going to do a little keynote presentation on my computer, walk through a couple graphs. It'll be short, but I want to show you these enzymes and why it's important to have these ratios and how they work in terms of reducing inflammation. So stay tuned. Everyone have a great day, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.